Oh, glorious day. Glorious day indeed. The Sleeper app has updated the app. It's been updated to include rookies, so I had to hop on here and do a little rookie mock draft in Sleeper. A, because I wanted to get the content out, and B, because like you, I'm an addict to Dynasty fantasy football. So hopefully you enjoy this. I have some landing spots here that I just threw together. My very creative graphic here is on the screen with landing spots according to Dane Brugler's latest mock draft. So I'm just going to make all the picks. We are going to fill some of these rookie mock drafts over the next several months. So don't worry about that. Over on the Dynasty Roundtable channel, there'll be some. So go subscribe over there. My channel, there'll be some that I do individually and that I do with some other people. But for this one, we're just going to do, we're going to kick it off very, what's the word? We're going to ease our way into it. Mock draft season, I guess, even though we've been doing mock drafts since November. But anyway, this is a super flex, tight end premium, rookie mock draft, 2 rounds, nothing crazy. And without further ado, I think we're just going to make the pick here that is, that we should make. And we're going to take Ashton Jeanty. And in this scenario, he goes to the Broncos. That is a home run landing spot. This is Brugler. Again, according to Dane Brugler, he would instantly become the Broncos' lead running back. My comp for him, basically since I looked at the film, has been Alvin Kamara. The contact balance is very striking. It's very similar to Alvin Kamara. The way he can catch passes out of the backfield, make people miss. Everything is good about Ashton Jeanty. Even in a Superflex league, I would have no problem taking him at the 101. I can understand if you, like me, are running back agnostic, or you believe that running backs are the cherry on top of the Dynasty sundae, and maybe your Dynasty team, if you have the 101, isn't necessarily ready to compete right away. I can understand wanting to trade it away. In fact, that might be a good move to see how much you can get, to maybe tier down, to maybe see if you could get a Luther Burden and some other assets on top of Luther Burden, especially if he goes in the NFL draft where he's projected to go according to Dane Brugler. So again, all of it to say that I believe Ashton Jeanty is the hands down 101. No matter, really, I mean, it's going to take something crazy. And I know we've had changes before in this. I know that we've had the Treylon Burks of the world and N'Keal Harrys of the world, but Ashton Jeanty is just different. So let's move on down to the 102. And there's a lot of interesting options. Honestly, these landing spots really threw me for a loop. But I'm going to go Tet McMillan here at the 102. And as you can see there, Tet McMillan, 6'5", 212 pounds rather. He has been productive in just about every college season at Arizona. I don't think he's played with the best quarterback play. And his hands, what's really elite skill of his are his hands and his ability to win in the short to intermediate game. And I think he can win downfield too. I'm a little bit concerned because sometimes on tape it's very tricky to get to this, but if you look at the all 22 breakdown on this channel, you can see that sometimes there's a lack of effort. And I know me saying that as a fantasy analyst sitting on my chair, and just doing a mock draft, that can seem really condescending, and it can seem very, what's the word for it? Like, I don't know what I'm talking about. Like, how dare you question the effort of an athlete? But just go watch the all 22 breakdown and you'll know what I'm talking about. It's not necessarily a lack of effort in the receiving game, but it's a lack of effort on the more detailed, how can you help the team areas of how you help your team win, like in the run block game, for example. So it's not, again, I don't think it's a huge issue, but for NFL teams looking to take somebody, I don't know, in the top 5, it might be. And in this scenario, he goes to the Patriots, and that's something that we really like with Drake May, and there's not a lot of target competition, blah, blah, blah. So let's move on to the 104. And in this scenario, I mean, I think we have to take Kaleb Johnson at the 103. Did I say 104? I meant 103. I don't know what I said, but and in sleeper, Kaleb Johnson, you have to scroll a little bit. I mean, sleepers, it's not perfect, but it's still pretty good. Kaleb Johnson to the Minnesota Vikings would signal that they're probably not bringing back Aaron Jones. He is the lead running back in a Kevin O'Connell offense. I don't really necessarily care who the quarterback is because Kevin O'Connell has proven time and time again that he can develop a quarterback. Sam Darnold got the most out of Kirk Cousins. There's obviously J.J. McCarthy is there. We're not sure how good he's going to be, but I believe in Kevin O'Connell. I believe he can get the most out of whoever is quarterbacking his offense. And Kaleb Johnson right away would probably at the very least become a top 20 running back, maybe top 15, probably top 15, maybe push to be a top 10 running back in all of Dynasty fantasy football from the jump. So again, that's just a home run landing spot for him. And now we get to the point where I think we got to take quarterback because, as you know, the Tennessee Titans have the number 1 overall pick, and this would be Cam Ward. Because as I've watched Cam Ward, he's not a perfect prospect. I think the Titans would be wise, even if they took him number 1 overall, to bring in a Jameis Winston, to bring in a Sam Darnold, to bring in somebody who can help bridge the gap between Cam Ward, because I do think that he's not nearly as good as any of the quarterbacks, even in the 2024 class. Like, if J.J. McCarthy or Bo Nix were in this class, they would be going number 1 overall, in my opinion. That's how this quarterback class stacks up to 2024. And really, it reminds me a lot of the Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett quarterback class, where we might see these guys tumble down draft boards. Now, I don't know if it's going to be that bad because we do have some teams like the Titans who have a desperate need for quarterback, although there's been some talk that they are committed, quote unquote, to Will Levis. I don't know necessarily if I believe that. I could see that being them trying to drum up interest in the number 1 overall pick by leaking stuff to the media. That would make more sense. But Cam Ward, he's solid. I don't think that he's spectacular, but I do think there's enough to work with there. I know this is going to make some of you throw up in your mouths, but he kind of reminds me of Dwayne Haskins a little bit. And again, I don't think Dwayne Haskins was necessarily a bad player, but I just don't know, like, the intangibles I don't know if were there. And again, obviously Dwayne Haskins has passed away and RIP and all that stuff, but you get the point. So at the 105, I do think that there is a clear pick here. And I know it's not going to be Travis Hunter. In fact, I think the Travis Hunter to the New York Giants is a terrible landing spot for him and would probably signal that he is going to play corner. And the more that I hear about Travis Hunter from people I trust, the IDP guys that I know, he's probably going to play corner. That breaks my heart a little bit, but still, you can't deny the truth. And we'll see what at the end of the day happens. But Luther Burden to the Cowboys, playing with Dak Prescott. Now we know Brian Schottenheimer is the head coach. I don't know how I feel about that personally. I probably would have just kept Mike McCarthy, but I think I hope that's not fake news. I just read that this morning or last night or something. So hopefully that's not fake news, but that's what I saw on my phone. And again, I don't know necessarily how to feel about that, but I do think that offensively this team's going to be at least okay, and I think Luther Burden was bogged down by a Missouri offense that, let's face it, was not great. Definitely not as good as it was the year before. But I still do believe he's a tremendous talent, and with this draft capital, very good. So let's move on to the 106, and Shedeur Sanders gets drafted by the Raiders at pick 6, and in a Superflex league, I do believe that's the direction we need to go. Shedeur Sanders, 6'2", 215, does take a lot of sacks, and this is the problem I think we're seeing with Caleb Williams at the next level. Doesn't matter how good you are as a quarterback prospect. You have to improve your processing time. You have to speed up your process, and Shedeur Sanders is going to be no different. And I don't know if it's been confirmed yet, but apparently Pete Carroll is the guy that the Raiders want. I don't know if that – I mean, it's certainly – I think from a leadership standpoint, that would be a good coach, and I think he could lure a good offensive coordinator there. So if Shedeur Sanders is the pick for them, I think that would ultimately be a good thing if that's the direction they're going. Again, I haven't seen anything that has been confirmed that Pete Carroll's the next head coach of the Raiders. And, of course, as it always happens, as soon as I post this video, news will break. Pete Carroll has been the next coach of the Raiders, or I may have just missed something. Anyway, our lives are crazy, and I sometimes that happens. We had a video recently where Evan Stewart, we did our top 36 rookie rankings, and Evan Stewart went back to school, and that broke early in January, and Matt Babich and I both missed it. So that's going to happen sometimes, and we apologize for it. We will be better, but again, that's just the nature of making videos like this. But Shedeur Sanders, if he goes to the Raiders, I think he belongs here in a super flex league. Now, anyway, and I don't necessarily think the situation's as bad as some people would think, because you have Brock Bowers there, Jacoby Myers. Anyway, let's move to the 107. I'm going to assume that Omarion Hampton goes in round 2, and I'm going to assume that he goes to a pretty good landing spot. So I'm going to take Omarion Hampton at the 107. Simply put, he is a big running back who is a super producer in college, has been a super producer in college, who can catch passes out of the backfield. And when you look at some of these round 2 landing spots, potentially, it is pretty good. It's pretty tasty. Cleveland might need a running back. The Giants, I mean, I know we love Tyrone Tracy, but let's face it, if they want to upgrade, and I know they have a lot of holes, but they could definitely upgrade at running back if they wanted to. Jacksonville, looks like I think they picked up Travis Etienne's 5th-year option last year. Las Vegas, New England, Chicago. Ben Johnson and the Detroit Lions, they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round, early in the first round. Dallas, if they don't take a running back in the first round. Cincinnati, I know they have Chase Brown. Pittsburgh, Denver. In this scenario, Denver drafts Ashton Jeanty. The Chargers, you get the point here. There's a lot of good landing spots potentially for round 2, and by taking Omarion Hampton here, I'm betting that he's going to get one of those landing spots, and I think he's really, really good. Now, with the next pick here, I am going to take Emeka Egbuka because I do think that the landing spot is pretty good, and I'll tell you why. George Pickens has had every opportunity to prove that he's an alpha, and there are times when he looks like an alpha. He has moments, but if you add it up at the end of the day, in totality, and you might be the biggest George Pickens fan in the world, but you have to acknowledge some truths at some point. And I like George Pickens. I've stood on the table for George Pickens. I haven't stood on any tables for George Pickens, but I have pounded the table for George Pickens in fantasy, in Dynasty. I've had him ranked very highly, and George Pickens, to this point, has really burned me because he hasn't finished higher than wide receiver 33 in fantasy points per game, and he's essentially played three full seasons. He hasn't had he had his best season this year, and it was basically just as good as last year. Actually, last year was better if you just look at receiving yards. He played in fewer games this year, so I guess maybe if he would have played in 17 games, like he did last year, then he would have maybe done better. But he's been largely disappointing. So in this scenario, I think Egbuka could go in there, and depending who their quarterback is, if they bring back Russell Wilson, if they sign Justin Fields, if they draft somebody, I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty there. But Egbuka, there is absolutely a world where he's the wide receiver 1 in this offense. So I really like that landing spot. I think Egbuka is relatively underrated in this class. Now we move on to the 109, and this would be the point where it might be tempting to take a Travis Hunter. And I'm just going to say I'm going to keep pushing him down because, again, I hate this landing spot for him. And I'm going to take Quinshon Judkins because, again, like we talked about before, there are so many landing spots in round 2 in the NFL draft that are going to be really good for running backs. You know, Dallas, the Chargers. And even though in this scenario we have a couple spots already taken up, you know, Minnesota gets Kaleb Johnson. You know, Ashton Jeanty goes to the Broncos. There are still more than enough landing spots to go around. And Quinshon Judkins, to me, is one of my favorite players in this draft just because of the way he plays. He's big, he's physical, he fits the prototype of a play of really the running back in this class that you know, like Omarion Hampton, Kaleb Johnson, Judkins, all these guys, Jeanty are bigger guys. Jeanty is a little bit not as tall, but still, like, these running backs are big and physical, and Judkins, I think, is just a really a unique talent, and I think NFL teams are going to love the dog factor. We were talking about it with Cody Carpentier, and he said Judkins scores very highly in the dog rating, so he's just a fantastic player, and I think he gets a round 2 draft capital that we really like. Now, at the 110, this is where it's tempting to take, again, my guy, Travis Hunter. But is he even in here? Hold on. I don't even think he's in here. No, he's not. Man. Oh, man. He's not even in the sleeper? Oh, my God. Jarquez Hunter is in here, but not Travis Hunter. That's, man, sleeper. Good Lord. We might have to... Travis Hunter is going to get drafted in this rookie mock draft. I just assumed he was in here. Wow. Okay. I get... Well, I don't know. I don't know if I'm overreacting or not, but I am going to take Tre Harris. And I'm choosing Tre Harris over like a Travis Hunter or one of the tight ends or maybe another running back because I think there's a lot of upside in this pick. Again, we've talked about him on the Dynasty Roundtable channel, and Matt Babbage kind of compares him. You know, if he hits, you know, the upside is what you're seeing in Houston with Nico Collins, like a bigger receiver with speed, the ability to get open down the field. He's just a really solid player, and I like what I've seen from him on film to this point. So, again, a lot of upside, and if you're sitting at the 110, 112, 111, it means you got pretty far in the playoffs, and there's nothing better than taking just a big swing on a wide receiver. Now it gets interesting because there are a couple of round 1 tight ends that I like, but we know tight ends take a minute to develop. Travis Hunter's sitting there, even though he's not in the sleeper database. But I think I am going to take Travis Hunter, and it's going to be Jarquez Hunter, I guess, is who is going to be the placeholder for Travis Hunter. So I don't know, but here's the thought process, right? You're at the 111. And if I'm a championship caliber team, I'm going to take championship level swings in the rookie draft. And even if we get 40 to 50% snap share from Travis Hunter with the Giants, I don't like it as much because of Malik Neighbors is there, and the target share isn't going to be fantastic, and the quarterback situation's blah, and you have a head coach that's a lame duck and a GM that's a lame duck because the team's probably not going to be good this year. So anyway, the situation's horrible, and maybe the pick stinks here at 111, but I'm still clinging on to the talent of Travis Hunter because there's a world where, and I'm going to say it, he's as good as Justin Jefferson as a wide receiver. Like, that's the kind of talent we're dealing with here. So yeah, I am sorry. I'm a Travis Hunter apologist through and through. And with this next pick, I'm going to go Tyler Warren. He gets the round 1 draft capital in this scenario, and he gets what I think is a pretty good landing spot with the Colts. Now, the Colts haven't historically, at least in recent history, have not utilized the tight end, and I am a little bit worried about the draft capital, or not the draft capital. I am a little bit worried about the quarterback, rather, in this scenario. But I do acknowledge that there is a lot of upside to taking Tyler Warren. Now it gets interesting, even in a super flex league, because there's a lot of running backs that I like, and there's a lot of different directions that I'd like to go, because I do acknowledge that the strength of this class is the running back. Trevion Henderson is probably the direction I would go, to be honest with you, because I'm going to lean into the strength of the class. Now, wait a second. This can't be right. All right, I guess Trevion Henderson isn't in here in the database, and I was looking, and at least it looks to me like he's going to be heading to the NFL draft. So I don't know. I don't know why he's not in here, but this would be my pick, and I'm trying to find who would be. Is there a Trey? Let's do Terrence Ferguson, because I think that name is great. Terrence Ferguson is going to be Trevion Henderson, and the Sleeper will probably do an update and make me look foolish where they do include Trevion Henderson, or maybe I'm just missing something. I don't know. But yeah, Trevion Henderson's not in the database, but he would be my pick here at the 2-1. So let's move to the 2-0-2. And let's consult my Superflex rankings. I am going to lean into the strength of this class, and I'm going to pick Dylan Sampson, because I like a lot of these running backs in this range, and I think for this reason, second-round picks are going to be very useful. Sampson's one of these undersized running backs that I think recently have been successful in the NFL. You think of Devon Chan, Keaton Mitchell, just the explosive nature of their running style and their ability to if they get into the open field, they're gone. And I think teams have recognized this, and I think that they're going to utilize these players very, very well. And I think it's a trend because these players like a Jahmyr Gibbs type, Devon Chan, they're able to stay healthy because they're not playing 70 to 80% of the snaps. They're playing 50, 60% of the snaps, which keeps them healthy and keeps their touches efficient. And yes, that means that they're going to fluctuate in their fantasy scoring, but unless you're Jahmyr Gibbs and you're just awesome. But it also is going to be good in those best ball leagues where you want those spike weeks, and I think Dylan Sampson can be one of those guys that can really provide some big time spike weeks. And next up, I'm just gonna keep on just attacking the running back position, because I do believe, as I've mentioned many times, it is the strength of this class, and we're gonna go Devin Neal. And Devin Neal has been productive, 3 straight seasons of 1,000 yards rushing at Kansas. Really patient running style that I really like, and I think NFL teams are going to like. Loved what I've seen from Devin Neal. So, again, with a ton of great landing spots in rounds 2 and 3, a ton of RB needy teams. I think that there's a really good chance that Devin Neal winds up in a good position for fantasy football. And no, I didn't forget about Colston Loveland. I didn't forget about him, but I am going to take him right here. I'm just not as enamored with Loveland as some other people are. I like Warren a lot better. And this, Turd Ferguson over here, that is supposed to be. I probably should have taken a running back, because that makes it confusing. But that's Travion Henderson. If for some reason you just jumped ahead to the Colston Loveland section of the video. But Colston Loveland going to the Chargers, I know on paper it seems really good, but I have a feeling that the Chargers are going to upgrade their receiver room. Their tight end, obviously Loveland would be their starting tight end, which would be really good. But again, I think Loveland's good. I don't necessarily think he's great, and I think it's likely going to take some time for him to develop. But again, let me know what you think in the comments. There's a real, I could be wrong, but I just like some of these running backs over Colston Loveland. And we're at the 205 now, and I do think it's time to take a receiver, and that receiver would be Xavier Restrepo. Xavier Restrepo, I've been comparing him to Ricky Pearsall. I think he's this year's Ricky Pearsall. 5'10", 198, fifth-year senior, really good route runner. Maybe not as good of a route runner as Ricky Pearsall or Ladd McConkey, but he's a very similar type player, in my opinion, who wins with his route running, and I think some team is going to see that, and I think he's going to get pretty good draft capital as a result, and he's one of my favorite players to draft in this range. So let's keep on keeping on, and let's just go, and this will make Matt Babbage smile if he's watching this, but and I know it might seem a little bit high for this guy, but again, I'm leaning into the strength of the class, and you might have to scroll a little bit. I wonder if he's even in here, to be honest. I don't know. Let me see if he's even in here. Is Brashard Smith even in here? Oh, yes, he is, but you're going to have to scroll a little bit. Brashard Smith, the more I watch, the more I really like. And again, he's a former wide receiver, transfer from University of Miami. So if we're following the Tyrone Tracy breadcrumbs here, there is, I think, an interest amongst NFL teams to take some of these former wide receivers turned running backs who have been super productive in college, even though they made the position change late. And maybe we're chasing the Tyrone Tracy hype a little bit too much, but I think Brashard Smith is very, very similar to a Tyrone Tracy in the sense that, he's explosive, and he made that switch and he was very effective. So again, I'm just the more I watch, the more I like. And so that's why he's the pick here. And so now I think that we're at the point where I think we can lean into the quarterbacks. This is a super flex draft. It's not lost on me. So I think I'm not going to go Jalen Milroe. I'm not going to go Quinn Ewers. I'm not going to go Dylan Gabriel, even though some people like those guys. My quarterback 3, and I'm sticking on this mountain, is Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart, I don't think he's the perfect prospect, but I do think there's a lot of upside. He has some rushing floor. He has a higher rushing floor than Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. And I know Jalen Milroe is probably that guy if you're looking for a fantasy producer right away. Like if Jalen Milroe gets the right landing spot, maybe let's say he winds up with the Steelers or something like that, there's a chance that he could start right away. I don't think that would be good for his long-term outlook, but it might be better for fantasy football. But Jackson Dart, I think, would be, if I was an NFL GM, I think he'd be my quarterback that I'd be targeting maybe in round 3, round 4. If he may not fall that far, but he would be the guy that I would, again, look to pair with a veteran, somebody with experience, and eventually see if he can take over. Now, let's see what we got here. Let me consult my rankings. So there's a number of different directions I could go here. And I know this might be an unpopular selection. But Ollie Gordon, to me, I can't ignore what he did in 2023. And I know the team was down this year, but Ollie Gordon, I still think that there's a lot of upside. And again, we talked about all these teams that could potentially use a running back. And Ollie Gordon, like if I just click on his player card here, you'll see he's 6'2", 225 pounds. And when you look at the production for Ollie Gordon, and I don't know it off the top of my head, but I know it was good in 2023. Like I said, it was very impressive. And you kind of wish, and I don't know if he was even eligible. No, I don't think he was eligible to come out after 2023. But well, I don't know what the specific rules are. He played 2 seasons, but he had 1,732 rushing yards and 22 total touchdowns, 21 rushing touchdowns at Oklahoma State. Now this year, that took a hit, 880 yards, 13 touchdowns. But again, the team wasn't very good, and Ollie Gordon is big. He has 2 straight seasons of catching over 20 passes, which we like to see. So again, in round 2, another running back that I'm going to be very interested in taking. So we're starting to get to the point where in the draft where I can't deny that I should probably lean into, well, not lean into, but take some upside shots. And if you want to take Jalen Milroe here, that's what I'm going to do. I think this is the perfect spot to take him. I don't necessarily like Jalen Milroe as a prospect, but I cannot deny in Superflex he has a lot of upside, especially from a rushing perspective. So again, I'm not the highest on Jalen Milroe as a player, but I think that there's a chance that he provides enough fantasy value to the point where you're happy taking him in the late second round of your rookie drafts. So now I'm going to take Jordan James, running back from Oregon. I think he is one of these players. I'm impressed a couple of ways with him. One, I like his cutback ability on tape. That was very apparent to me. I think it was impressive that he was relatively productive with Bucky Irving in tow there, like in tow. What am I saying here in tow? What kind of expression is that? In tow. But Jordan James, just to give you an idea, 759 rushing yards in 2023, 11 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown, 15 receptions in that season. So he was productive with a good running back there. And in 2024, this season, on a really good Oregon team, yes, the yards per attempt was down. It was 5.4. But over 1,200 rushing yards, 15 rushing touchdowns, and 26 receptions. So, again, another running back in this class that was super productive for multiple years and is just a player that in the late second round, mid-second round, I am very comfortable taking him in this range. So we have just 2 picks left to make, and then we'll recap, maybe talk about some players that I didn't select that I really still like. I'm a bigger fan of this class than I think the average bear, but I'm just going to, again, go with some upside, and there's a couple running backs I like here. There's a wide receiver I like here, but, I mean, this is, I don't know if this is just going to get me brownie points amongst the scouting community. I don't know really, but damn it, give me Cam Scatabo. I'm leaning into the strength of the class. I believe he was second in rushing in college football this year. I know the profile's not going to come in where we like. He's probably going to be a day 3 guy, so maybe you could get him even later in a Superflex rookie draft than this. I don't know, but he just looks like a good football player, and maybe at the end of the day we complicate this process too much. I don't know, but Cam Scatabo, just give me Cam Scatabo. And then for the last pick, again, there's a lot of different directions that I could go. I like Jalen Royals. I like DJ Giddens. If I consult my rankings right now, Jalen Royals would probably be the pick. But I can't deny, like, I think I will take Jalen Royals. I wanted to take DJ Giddens there. That was tempting. But I will take Jalen Royals because if you just go look at his game log for like this year, and I'll bring it up, right? Like, it would be like if you did a create a player on, I don't know, college. I didn't play the college game, but some of the stats are just ridiculous. And I get it. He only played in 7 games in 2024 because he was dealing with an ankle injury. But they played, their schedule was pretty tough. They played Boise State, Utah, and USC, all teams ranked inside the top 25. Against Boise State, 9 catches, 211 yards, 2 touchdowns. Against Utah, not as good, 4 catches, 44 yards. Against USC, 6 catches, 47 yards. And to say that, and anyway, like against UNLV, 10 catches, 155 yards and a touchdown. Against New Mexico, 11 catches, 188 yards and a touchdown. Like, this guy was a staple of their offense at Utah State. And when you look at the size, 6 foot tall, 205 pounds, that's exactly what we're looking for from a wide receiver. Should be fast enough. Like, Jalen Royals, I think, is a sleeper. That's going to be taken likely in round 3 of your rookie drafts. Now, obviously, draft capital is going to matter for him, but he's a dynamic player, dynamic talent, and everything that I've seen on tape. Again, he's raw, so situation is going to be super important for him. But again, he's one of the sleepers that I'm keeping an eye on. So let's go over some more guys that I didn't take that I think are some of my favorite sleepers. And maybe this could be a segment that I can clip out and repost. I don't know. I'm experimenting with that right now on YouTube. But, Matthew Golden is somebody I haven't done enough work on. But, again, he showed up really big in the college football playoff. He's somebody to keep an eye on. Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. Very intriguing, bigger wide receiver that I like quite a bit. Alec Ayumanor is a player that I think is really, really good. And if you're looking to take a shot on somebody I believe has a high ceiling, just from a profile standpoint, who had a really good game against Travis Hunter in 2023, I think that's a guy to keep an eye on as well. And then Harold Fannin, who led the country in receiving yards as a tight end at Bowling Green, is another player that wasn't drafted here, but you could definitely make a case for depending on what his landing spot would be. So those are a few options. DJ Giddens, we kind of talked about. Taj Brooks, that's what I meant to say. Taj Brooks. I don't know why I said Taj Boyd, but I don't think he's in here. Now I'm having a moment where I'm like, do I just know nothing about? Yeah, it is Taj Brooks. I had a moment there where I didn't even really understand anything about life really at all. But Taj Brooks is another player that I'm super intrigued by. So again, lots to dive into in this rookie season. Hope you like this breakdown, this mock draft. Again, sleeper doesn't have Travion Henderson in here. Doesn't have Travis Hunter in here yet, and it's very possible that Travion Henderson is going to play in the Arena Football League, and we just haven't been notified yet, or at least I even paused the video to see if he was declared, and I couldn't really find anything definitive, but that could just be my lack of ability to navigate the internet. So anyway, apologies if Sleeper has excluded him. Or maybe I could just confine him. I don't know. But that's enough of me rambling. Thank you so much for watching. Be good, everybody. And we will see you later.